Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for ICONversations. The ICON program is designed to celebrate our company's top producers. These agents have not only exceeded capping status, but have also reached exceptional milestones, earning them various stock grants and the opportunity to earn back their paid company dollar. From Ontario, we have Daniel Hale and Vishal Saxena. From Texas, we have Shelley Cooley. From Wisconsin, we have Carolyn McNamara, and our moderator today from Florida is Stephen Croy. Stephen, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Appreciate the introduction, and I'm honored today to be standing on stage with these amazing individuals that I partner with in eXp Realty. I'm looking forward to a great panel today with some good questions. I'm really excited about being here and trying to add value to this environment. I'm going to start off real quick. We'll just go around the table and just introduce ourselves. Some intro questions. I'll start off, but we'll do where you're from, how long you've been with eXp, how long you've been in real estate, how long you've been in ICON. I'll start by saying I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. That's the northeast tip of Florida, almost Georgia, and I've been in real estate 23 years, and I've been eXp. I'm on my 8th year now, just started my 8th year, and I hit 7 icons in a row. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with eXp. It's a phenomenal company, great opportunity, great. One of the best decisions I made was closing my brokerage out. And being an independent broker, I thought was going to be the best thing, and it wasn't. So this is. So great. Let's go around. Carolyn, tell us where you're from.
Hi, my name's Carolyn McNamara. I am from central Wisconsin, Stevens Point, to be precise, middle of the state. I partner, my business partner is my eldest daughter, Rachel. We are both pretty much rainmakers. We each have our own buyers that we work with, but we do our listing appointments together. We started out at KW, at KW, started in 2016. Worked there for just over 4 years, and then we moved in March of 2020, I think it was, to eXp. Great move. I love Keller Williams. No qualms about Keller Williams. We just thought that eXp was a better fit for us, so we moved to eXp. So we've been in real estate. It will be 9 years, August 1st. And I've iconed 4 times. I've been here 4 years, and I've iconed 4 times each year that we've been. I hope, to bring something to this panel, and I'm sure to get a lot from it. So thank you for inviting me.
Great. And how about let's move over to Shelley. Shelley, you've been with the eXp for a little while.
Hi there. Yes, my name is Shelley Cooley. I am out of Houston, Texas, and I have been with eXp now going on 7 years. I started in real estate. I was previously I was an educator. I spent 15 years educating young minds, and I started in real estate in 2009 as a home stager. And it was kind of a side hustle for me. And that is what led me eventually to getting my license in 2016. I'm sure everybody here has heard of the Franklin team. They're the number 1 team in Texas. And that's where I got my start as a home stager. And then once I got my license, I stayed on that team. So my husband and I just left in March of 2024 and to start our own team, the Cooley team. And in that, 15 months, we've iconed twice. So we're really excited about that. Of course, with us being on the Franklin team, we were on a mega team, and we didn't, while we would have iconed, we did not, participate in that. So our cap was smaller. And but anyway, we love eXp. I feel like we've grown so much since we've been here, and especially in the last 15 months with the NAR settlement, was actually the same week that we announced that we were pivoting and going to start our own team, is when the NAR settlement announced to the public that they were settling. And my husband and I kind of looked at each other like, wow, the timing of this. But it was ultimately a really good thing, because it just put us in a position of having to take the initiative and lead, especially with the agents that we sponsor here at EXP. So anyway, like Carolyn, I'm looking forward to this panel today and being able to contribute and also getting lots of wisdom from it. So appreciate being here. Thank you.
Excellent. Now we have two guys from Ontario. We'll start off with Vishal first. Tell us about yourself, Vishal.
Hey, Stephen. Vishal is still not here, and I don't think he'll be joining. So let's just go to the next panelist.
Oh, fair enough. Well, we still got Daniel from Ontario. Tell us more, Daniel.
Yeah, so I'm from Burlington, Ontario. It's about half an hour outside of Toronto. I've been in real estate for 5 years now. I've been with EXP for 3 years. Before I joined and got my real estate license, I was doing property management for 4 years. Jumped into real estate. I took everything that I learned from there and transitioned it into buying and selling. And I do about 25, 30 transactions a year. And I've hit ICON last year, and I'm one transaction away from doing it a second time, which is exciting. So happy to be here.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Well, as y'all can see in the audience or hear from the audience, we have some serious experience up here that we can share some insights and some value. Again, being honored to be up here with these individuals, and we'll start off with. I got a couple different topics today. I'm going to ask. We're going to start off with basically some real talk about what's working. Then versus now. We got some individuals who've been in business for a little bit. So we're going to start off with Carolyn, and Carolyn, here the question we're going to ask on this topic is, what's the one thing agents are still doing right now that you think is outdated or ineffective, say in today's market, that you would suggest, and what would you suggest instead that is moving the needle for you?
I would say, in my experience, and I know everybody has a different opinion on it, door knocking. And I've heard people sing praises of it, but I think that is old and outdated. And I think people are fearful to come into the door for anybody that they don't know. I tried it. I tried it a couple different times, even in a neighborhood that I know, and I had not good luck with it at all. And something that's tried and true, and I know it's repetitive, and people say, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I know." But your sphere of influence, your sphere of people, keeping in contact, volunteering is huge. Volunteer in your community, you get to know a lot of different groups of people, and there's always someone looking to sell. And when you do that and give of yourself, it comes back tenfold.
That's awesome. That's some really good insight. There's definitely some people, like you said, on both sides of the fence on that door knocking, and I'm going to go more with you on that one. But I do believe that, giving back and everything we do in our communities is so important. So let's move on over to Shelley. Ask that same question. What are you seeing, that people are still doing that you think is outdated or ineffective, and what are you doing instead that's really moving the needle?
I would say overall just passive marketing. I think that a lot of agents are still just putting signs in the yard and praying that the home sells based on the sign in the yard and the home on MLS. So I think for us, we're really having to dig in, and we're having to pull out all the stops, and doing all the things like reverse prospecting. And we send postcards out. We haven't always done that, but we're trying to do that now with everything that, right when we get a listing, we send out the just listed postcards. I think that there is definitely something to open houses and door knocking with open houses, specifically, and having a script. When you knock on that door, and I'm not going to argue whether door knocking is effective or not, but I think when it's coupled with an open house, it can be. And so something that we do is we'll, knock on a door and we'll invite the neighbors and tell them that the first hour is just for the neighbors and it's exclusive, and that we've promised our seller that we're going to do everything we can to get their home sold. And so we would love for them to come, take a a tour through the open house, and maybe they know somebody, right? And not only are we, they think, well, wow, they're really going the extra mile to help their seller get their home sold, but we're also meeting new people. So I think it's really the way that you frame it, whether or not we could say that door knocking actually works.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Shelley. Yeah. Definitely love the mega open house idea. Definitely moving the needle for us here in Northeast Florida. The VIP tour, I love that. 1 hour prior, doing that circle prospecting prior to call it the 10-10-10 or 20-20-20. Knock on 10 doors left, 10 doors right, 10 doors across the street. Try to invite people in. They're going to want to see the house anyway, so might as well let them in for first hour. Give them VIP access. I love that. That's some really good. It's some really good value there. So Daniel, how about you? What are you seeing? And obviously 5 years in, but I'm sure you've seen a good amount of business based on your production. What do you see agents doing now, or now that you like, hey, that's kind of getting outdated, or maybe you see people that are been around a while that's doing stuff that's still not working, and you're like, this is working for me. What is working for you the best right now? What is moving the needle for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think everything still works. I think the biggest thing is choosing what works for you. And I see a lot of the biggest mistakes, like maybe even more for new agents. There's so many ways to get leads. And I think you can get very distracted by choosing like every option out there, like cold calling, door knocking, doing PPC ads, whatever it is. And you spread your time out very, like a lot. It gets very spread out to the point where you almost can't tell what is working and what's not working. So for me, I find, and I think later on in your stages of your career, when maybe you have more advertising money to spend and you can do more stuff, then of course that would help. But for me, it was really dialing into just one or two things and going 100% all into them. So for me, I went all in on YouTube. I went all in on SEO, just basically the social media game, because I found that even while I was sleeping at night, I had lots of people still watching my videos, and that would be basically the system would be working for me to the point where I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have leads in my email. And that type of the audience that you can generate off of doing stuff like that, I think is huge. And I think that it's more picking something that works for you and going all in on it. Like I have agents under my downline that, they love being on the phone. They're cold calling all the time and they're amazing at it. They do a really good job. They dial a lot and they do good business. So it works for them. And when you find something that works for you, I think you should really double down on it.
I love that. I love that, Daniel. The shiny object syndrome. Gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's so much to say about that because and I'm guilty over the years. I'll be like, that sounds good. I'll try that. And I'll do that too. And I'll do that. And you start adding so many things and all of a sudden you become so watered down. And our coach, is very, we have a really strong coach and he keeps us in check. It's funny about coaches. I didn't have a coach my first 10 years in the business thinking I didn't need one. Oh my goodness. Everybody needs a coach, keeps you accountable. But yeah, so definitely the shiny object syndrome. I definitely think that you gotta, and I agree with you, you have to figure out what works for you, because if you do too much and you're doing something that's not working for you, you got to take that out of the mix. One of the things that we always concentrate on is having enough pillars in our business for income producing and, doing those high dollar per activity, activities that really help for those pillars, but you really can't overextend. And it's easy to do in this business. There's so many shining objects out there. As far as YouTube, we're on board with that as well. Finally, I should
Awesome.
I should have done a long time ago. My son actually took control of that. He's actually on my team, been with me now 10 years, and he's and he's kind of running that. But it's definitely, YouTube has been a big driver, as a lot of us know.
Yeah, I agree. And that's when I first got my license, I had the mindset of like, oh, if I just do everything, door knock, cold call, everything, I'm gonna have so many leads. And it's funny because like for me now, it worked out the complete opposite. I started really, really pushing YouTube and doing that. And it was the craziest thing ever for me because I saw what I was spending on PPC ads, and then I was paying I think $40 for somebody to edit my YouTube video, and I was getting seller and buyer leads, and I was like, the return on that investment was insane. And I think that's why I kind of mentioned the phase of your career because of course we all want to be on every billboard possible, but that gets extremely expensive and you can burn your pocket out. So until you grow your business to a good level where you can put that money into the billboards, it's like you want to find something that works for you that you can generate leads and not be too costly.
100%, 100%. And as all of us up here know, consistency is key. And being intentional in our time and time blocking is so important. And you just can't do it all in a day. There's only so many hours in a week. Well, I think it's 156, per week. It's all you get, and you can divide it up with your things you got to take care of in your personal life as well. So great. All right. Well, let's let me see. I think we can move on to another question. And this one is going to be more about your current business strategy. Now, choose which one of these is more directed to what you do. Like if you're more on the buyer side or if you're more on the listing side. But choose one of these questions. And as a on the buyer side, if you work a lot with buyers, with buyer representation agreements becoming so common today, especially with what happened last year in our industry, how are you presenting and explaining them to your clients to ensure they can, to ensure trust and to buy in? Because, some of us have been doing for a long time. We didn't need last year to change our business, but some didn't. And so some need that buy-in. What are you seeing on that? And if you're on the listing side, right now, I think it was Leah, our leader. I was at one of the rallies in Orlando earlier this year, and he stood up on stage and he said that who's been in the business since X amount of years, and a lot of us, or a lot of people in this business, have not experienced price changes. And so I've been fortunate enough to have that because I've been around a while. But a lot of agents never really understood how to really effectively educate their sellers and work through price changes or price improvements, I'll say. But on the listing side, this would be the question. In a market where days on market are increasing, pricing is critical. How are you educating your sellers who expect peak, still expect that peak pricing? So let's start with Shelly. Shelly, which one do you want to choose on that question?
I'll talk about listings. I'm more listing heavy, although I do really love working with buyers, especially in today's market. But I mean, I start out, by having realistic conversations at the kitchen table when they're still just a customer, right? And they're not a client yet. I think it's easier to have those more difficult conversations then after they become your client, and then you're trying to backtrack and explain the market. So a lot of education on the front end, and I think sellers want honesty and they want a plan. And I show them data from the very hyper local market and walk them through the psychology of a buyer today and what buyers, letting them know that buyers are more picky and price conscientious, right, due to the higher interest rates. So I explain to them that instead of, saying we need to price your home correctly, I try to spin it to say, we need to price your home to create demand, and not to rack up days on market. So, and I think, over the years, a lot of my business is referral business. And so, I think I've built, the trust and credibility with my clients. And so sellers appreciate the honesty and the guidance. And I know that sometimes it's, it's tough having those conversations, but it's a whole lot easier if you do it from the beginning. And then you can always refer back and you can say, remember when we were sitting at your kitchen table and we talked about price strategy and, and I told you what that was going to look like, and recapping a lot. So I want them to know that I'm not trying to sell them on a number and that it's not my opinion, but really looking at the data and pricing, being smart about where they're going to price. And a lot of times I'll ask a seller, do you want to be on the market or in the market? right? So if they want to be in the market, then they need to make sure that they are pricing their home to create demand, and that if we do have to take price adjustments, that's not going to come as a surprise to them. So it's just, again, over educating, having lots of conversations and being communicative throughout, and just making sure that my clients are, making sure that I am touching base with them on a weekly basis for market updates. That's huge right now for me.
Oh yeah, you've put some gold nuggets out there for sure, Shelley. That's huge. As we say, we tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they appreciate that. I mean, especially savvy sellers, but if they're new to the game, they've never sold a home before, even more reason to over communicate and educate. That's key. It's really key just to be consistent with that
100%. Love it. Yeah. And setting expectations up front and going over the actual consultation at the beginning is so important, going over all the ins and outs for sure. But yeah, like you said, communication. I mean, that's I think one of the biggest complaints that the consumer has in our industry against our industry is communication. And if you can master that, I think you really do set yourself apart in this industry for sure. So that's great here. Great nuggets there, Shelley. Appreciate that. Let's jump over to Carolyn. Carolyn, so are you more so buyer heavy or seller heavy? Which question do you want to hit up on?
We are more listing heavy right now. This year has been just crazy as far as listings. And I agree a lot with Shelley in what she said. It's really about educating the seller. The market is shifting. At least it is here in Wisconsin. It's not the market it was back in 2021, 22. It is shifting, and we educate them that buyers are much more informed nowadays. They know what houses are going for. They know what they're looking for. They're particular in what they want. So when we meet with a seller, we talk to them, see what their expectations are. What are they looking for? When is their moving? All those kind of things. And then we go through what we do to get their house sold, those kind of things, and then go back and do a CMA for them. And then bring it to them again, realistically. And I think Shelley touched on that also, being realistic about what their expectations should be. We want to be the listing agents that capitalize and deliver, not tell them what they want to hear and underdeliver. So communication is incredibly important to us. And to make sure that our clients realize that they are our number one. We may have 20 listings, but they are our number one priority. And our buyers too. I mean, working with our buyers, we each have our own buyers that we work with. So knowing their expectations and reining them in to be realistic in their expectations. It's nicer now because the inventory is opening up. We're finding more houses. We're able to be competitive and negotiate. Where before it was just all sellers. So now it's a little bit more even playing field here in Wisconsin. That's awesome. No, I totally agree, Carolyn. That's good. That's good. That's some good input. Great way to answer that question. Shelley and you both see eye to eye on a lot of that. I agree with both you ladies. I mean, definitely is very, very important. Very important to have that sit down at the beginning. That's something that some agents, are still struggling with, to have that sit down, to have that really eye to eye at the table. It could be their kitchen table. It could be at your office if you have one. But all right. So Daniel, tell us, more heavier buyer side, listing side. Tell me how you're going to answer that question. And what do you got?
Yeah, a lot more heavy on the listing side right now. And I definitely, like Shelley and Carolyn, just hit the nail on the head there with everything. I think honesty and having those tough conversations, sometimes should say tough, is the best thing to do. I see agents still sometimes they kind of get in a little bit of a mess for themselves where they tell the sellers a high price that they can get just to try to get the listing. And it really does not work out. You end up on the market for a very long time. The sellers end up getting upset at you, especially if you sell it for a lot less, or even worse, it doesn't sell at all. It doesn't help your business. I think being honest and having those conversations is the most important thing. I think sellers nowadays are more educated than ever. With the House Sigma, the information that they have, the AI, all that stuff, they're very educated. And one of the things too that I think helps a lot right now for listings or for myself, when I do my listing appointments, I like to really get a thorough tour of the house first and know what my product is that I'm selling and who my buyer is. And when you can gauge the market on, what's on market right now for days on market, what's sold in the area, you can then gauge even how quickly it could sell. And I know it is a slower market right now, but I still have some listings that I go to. And after the tour, I'm like, whoa, this is going to sell like quite quickly, provided we obviously have to agree on the price. But I think, have those tough conversations, give honesty to the seller, not just show them. Another thing that I find is super helpful. A lot of people will show the sale prices. I also like to show what's on market and what it's priced at, because like, as an example, if you're going on the market at like $899 and there's a house exactly like that one that's been on market for 60, 70 days, there's a high probability that you're going to be the next one at 60 to 70 days if you price it at the same price. So knowing the market, knowing the numbers, having the tough conversations, but I'm definitely a lot more listing heavy right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, and I'm going to touch on that. As far as you're pricing homes today, and this is something that I've always kind of watched the market and kind of dialed in pricing, and obviously we provide, they decide, but we are those that are needed to give them the best advice and the consultation possible. But it's interesting. I'm finding more that it's so important to be watching. Think of it as like you're looking out the rear view mirror, or you're looking out the windshield. You got to be looking down the road. You look at the windshield, look out front, because what things sold for even right now, 30 days, 60 days, which we typically would use comps easily for 30, 60, 90, even 120, and feel strong about those numbers. With the market shifting the way it is, I mean, we have to look out that windshield and really kind of see where things are, what things are, how long have been in the market. And we're definitely sharing that with our sellers up front. Let's not market it for 3 months ago. Let's market it for, because by the time we market, I'll put our marketing program together, our marketing package, we get on the market, possibly coming soon, the open house, the VIP open house. I mean, it's going to take a couple of days. So let's price it competitively, and and I think it was what Shelly said, in the market or on the market. I love that. God, that was awesome. So nobody touched on the buyer side. So, and ironically, I'm more listing heavy. I mentioned my son Justin earlier. He does a lot of the buyers, but it comes down to that buy-in that I talked about, or in the question. And you really do got to get a buy-in. But remember, we're also, doing a sit down with the buyer themselves and seeing if we're aligned. Because if I could say, one of the biggest mistakes that agents take is they take on people who aren't aligned with their core values or their business model, and their expectations are just off right from the get-go. And I've always joked with agents I've brought in the business or taught the business to over the years that, transactions don't typically get better. If they start rough, they end rougher. So that's just my opinion, but that's just how I say it. So, but no, that's some good insight. As far as the next, the next question, we're talking about communication and client experience. Okay, so this is interesting because I love to hear what you all have to say about this one. But communication and client experience. The question being, what do you do in your client experience from either onboarding a client, customer, to post closing, and that you think sets you apart from other agents, maybe in the industry or in your area. So what do you do that sets yourself apart with that client experience from the start to the finish? We'll start with Daniel on this one. Daniel? Did we lose Daniel?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was off mute. So I think what sets me apart big time right now is YouTube. And I guess it doesn't have to just be YouTube, but I find video. So if I'm gonna do a buyer consultation or a seller consultation, I have videos that I've posted on YouTube that I can send them before we have our meeting so that they can watch it. And I find this creates like it's very good because people can watch a 10-15 minute video. It creates authority, it creates trust. And when they're done watching it, I find it's like giving them good information that they can watch. So when we do have a meeting, it's like I've broken that trust barrier almost, or like, they have more confidence in the discussions. And I feel like that has what's been separating me from a lot of agents. And same thing with listings. I can show views that my listings can get, and it helps.
I got you. As far as communication through the process, from the beginning to the ending, and even post closing, afterwards, anything you're using that is, that kind of really sets you apart?
Um, I would just say like being extremely honest with them, trying to give them as much knowledge as I possibly can. I like to show them how things are going to go from start to finish, whether they're on the buyer or seller side. Um, that I think, the guide from A to Z on where they're going to go is big, because then they're not confused about the process at all. So
Yeah.
I feel that's probably about pretty much what I'm doing.
The golden rule, right? Treat them how you want to be treated.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. All right. Well, let's move over to Carolyn on this one. Carolyn, what do you do in your client experience from onboarding to post closing that sets you apart from other agents in your area or in the industry here?
Well, for buyers, talking about buyers, correct?
It could be either one. Honestly, when you onboard a buyer, you're doing a buyer consult, you're doing sort of what Daniel said, and then obviously you get through the client experience can go through the transaction to close, which I think is a big piece of this business that people forget about, because that's usually the harder part in some regard. But then through post closing, what do you do in that client experience and that communication? Any kind of tactics or strategies you use?
Gosh, not that I can think of offhand. I think the biggest thing that we have, that we stressed upon when we got into real estate was communication and being able to reach an agent that, one, is knowledgeable in the area, two, that you could even get a hold of. So we have found that is very much in our favor, that we pick up our phone when people call. If they leave a message, which is rare, I return the phone call as soon as possible if I'm, in a listing appointment or something, and that I'm accessible to show them houses when they're available. So that has pretty much, and then being very, using common terms to explain the transaction, where we're at, what their expectations are, what is going to happen, so there's no surprises along the way, which, we all know that there is sometimes, we get bumps in the road, but being calm, cool, collected, giving them answers when they ask questions, and just going through the whole process, setting things up. Having a full-time admin helps us a lot, because she does all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and we can concentrate on our clients.
That's great. I totally agree with you on that one. It's amazing how everything comes back to communication a lot of times, and being open and honest. That's really important. So Shelley, what do you got on this communication and client experience? What do you do in your, is there any tools you're using, anything that you can share with us today that, you use, from the onset all the way to closing, maybe post closing, that sets you apart? What you got?
Sure. Well, I don't know if it sets me apart, but it's definitely something that I do. So communication obviously is key. I will, say that all day long, every day. But from the discovery call, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I find that, the more, the longer I spend on a call with a buyer or a seller at the beginning, it just sets the tone for the entire transaction, and thoroughly communicate how the process is going to go. And let's just say if it's for a seller, and discovery call, I get all their information about their home. I let them tell me how wonderful their home is, and I really let them paint a picture of what their home looks like. So by the time I arrive at their door, it's not a video, it's not YouTube, but I've spent 30 to 45 minutes building rapport on the phone with them. And so they feel like they know me when I get there. And, and that's, I think so a lot of communication on the front end. But then once we, get into the process, let's say we just go under transaction, or go under contract on a transaction. And we're big on, we have email templates for everything. And so I do have a full-time admin, and she's fantastic. But we have our system and our process, and we make sure that we send a next steps email. So I have a couple next steps emails going out today, and that paints the picture, for what either a buyer or a seller can expect, all the important dates that we need to be tracking. We tell them, hey, this is our guide. Make sure you print it out and you refer back to this, but it gives them the power to kind of follow along and know what's going to come next. So that's a big one for us, the next steps email. And, I throughout the transaction, when something positive happens, I'm always going to send them a personalized text or something congratulating them for making it through the next step. And then I reiterate the next, step, whether it's another hurdle, like if we've just made it through inspections and we've, negotiated repairs. And then I know that the appraisal's next. So I just am constantly, front loading them with more information and congratulating them each, every time we get through another step of the transaction. And I think really what sets me apart from other agents possibly is just the relationship that I build throughout the transaction with my client. So they start out as a client and they end up as a friend. And so, I'm really big on, we have Power Hour on our team, and twice a week right now, which we probably should do it even more. But twice a week, we get on a Zoom call, we mute ourselves, but we go to work just contacting our sphere, past clients, and just to check in with them and see how they're doing. Because again, it's all about the relationship and it's long-term. I always want to be an advocate for our clients, whether, they closed a house with me 10 years ago or 1 year ago, right? I always want them to know that they can reach out to me for any questions that they might have, if they want to know the equity of their home, whatever it is. But we want to stay in touch with them on a regular basis because it will come back to us. And I think when you are serving others and you keep that in mind, the money is always going to come. And I think a lot of agents especially agents that are getting in the market now, they are so hungry and they are thinking about all the money that they're going to make. And really it's about all the relationships they need to build, and then the money will come.
I love it. Love it. Do the right thing and everything else will follow. All the good stuff follows. I love that. We got a little, it looks like we're good on time right now. So I'm just going to add in what my team and I are doing. Similar to what she just said, what Shelley just said. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot of tools out there, but one of the best, I mean, I love EXP. I mean, I have no plans of going anywhere. Again, and start my 8th year here, and best decision in my real estate career. But one of the best things that EXP ever did was to partner with Sisu. Sisu has been a game changer. I was on a transaction management tool for years, Brokerment. And I met up with Sisu last year before they partnered with EXP, and met with Brian at they had a behind the scenes event out in Salt Lake City in January. Flew out there, met with Brian and his team and all the other broker teams that were out there. But it's crazy the tools that are available to us. And if you haven't seen Sisu enough, or if you haven't dived in, if you haven't touched on it, this is a game changer. I mean, not only does it absolutely just crush the transaction coordination for my transaction team to manage through, but their client portal that they have, a lot of what you said, Shelley, the client portal does that. It's almost like, as Brian explains it, he's like, when you order the pizza, you want to know, when the order's taken, when it's in the oven, when it's in the car, how far it is from the house. Everybody wants instant gratification. And with Sisu, with this client portal, it aligns with your transaction coordination and your transaction list, your actually management list. So you're actually, the key dates are obviously sent out at the beginning, and then those are incorporated into Sisu. And we have those templates going out, making sure communication is there. But that client portal is just huge. And I've been very fortunate to be able to get on board with that. So if anybody here in the audience or on stage has not, done some deeper dive on Sisu, I highly, highly recommend it. I'm not getting paid by Sisu. I don't want any affiliate money. I'm just basically just saying that this is a tool that is a game changer. And if agents within EXP start to really dive into it, they're going to really see it. So that's really important. And post closing, our past business, I'll just say this. Another icon gave me this suggestion on one of these events about a year, probably almost 2 years ago. It's called Lolo. And it's actually a really cool system where every month, local businesses, this company partners with local businesses in your neighborhoods, and you basically send out a gift to your past clients, and they get a gift, and they get reminders every month for 3 months on every gift. And it's very economical. You don't pay for the gift. You just pay for the subscription. It's very economical. It's been huge. People, out of the blue will text us back, thank you for the brownie, or thank you for the cupcake, or thank you for the burger. I mean, it's really cool stuff. So if you haven't done Lolo, that's really cool for past clients. So, but yeah, no, definitely it's important to that communication, that client experience. We all have that, that unique value, that unique value proposition, that we do for our customers and clients. But it's really that whole experience that we have to. I think I was at EXPCon. I think it was in Miami last year, about the whole experience. About that whole thing. I mean, I was just floored sitting in that auditorium last year, watching that gentleman who changed that restaurant in New York. Just amazing. Forget his name, but I'm sure some of you know it. But anyway, let's move on to the next question. And so the next question is about mindset and longevity. So mindset and longevity. So, okay. So we'll start off with Carolyn. Okay. And how do you, this could be tougher, but how do you stay motivated? Because we're not in the easiest market. Last year was tough for a lot of us, and this year is challenging. We see a lot of changes. So how do you stay motivated and focused when the market, can get tough, or when you're not seeing immediate results?
Well, you know what? I have always been a self-starter. I do not need anybody behind me, in front of me, next to me to motivate me. I have been my entire life self-motivated. So, and that's why real estate was such a good choice for me as a career. I don't need that. I know what I need to do. I know everybody is a little bit different, and some need, others, cheering them on, but that's just never been me. Other than having my business partner, Rachel being my eldest daughter, we just motivate each other. So, and we get, after now being in it 9 years, we get a lot of referrals, and we get our clients coming back to us, after they've owned it for 5 years, they're calling saying, okay, we want to sell. Hey, my kids are old enough. They're looking for a house. So a majority of the business that we have now is a lot of it is referrals. So, or our past clients coming back. But again, I'm not good on the motivation because I'm self-motivated. So, I mean, there's probably others here that have better answers than what I have.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I mean, just it's always good to hear, what each of us, kind of have. Everybody has a different toolbox and abilities and skills, and that's good to hear on how you handle that. So Shelley, do you use things to help motivate you, help you stay focused when the market gets tough? When you're not seeing results come so easily.
Yeah, so this I could talk all day long about. I'm huge on mindset.
All right.
And I get up extra early. The first 2 to 3 hours is my time, and I prioritize myself. I tend to work late hours, so the morning is my time, and I really lean into faith and just I begin BIG, begin in gratitude. So in the mornings, it's my quiet time, it's my spiritual time. I do a lot of reading. I listen to podcasts. I exercise, and daily I say positive affirmations. So that's just a really kind of a good hour of my morning is spent just on mindset, and that's by myself. And so, but I also know I've been in this business long enough to know that the results don't always show up in the same month as the work. And if I just, stay in activity, and if I make my calls and I have face-to-face meetings, the pipeline just continues to fill up, right? And so I do surround myself with positive people and, people who lift me up. I run, a couple of different mastermind groups and accountability groups that also energizes me to be around others, like-minded people. Collaboration is huge. I mean, that's what EXP is all about. So I don't tend to burn out, but I think it's because I make sure that I am implementing these sorts of things into my day daily. So
I love that what you just said about people that lift you up, right? I mean, rising tide lifts all ships, right? So I've heard some of the leaders, recently in some of the breakout sessions talk about surrounding yourself with winners. And I love being surrounded by winners, and I love being here at EXP especially. And sometimes you don't surround yourself with winners, and you have to identify that that's an issue. And sometimes that doesn't become motivating when you've got negative, people or negative comments, things going on. I mean, you got to stay positive, because you got to stay, you got to be in this business. You have to persevere. You have to treat it like a business. You can't treat it like a hobby. You got to be very strong and very intentional, as my coach teaches me. But yeah, absolutely. So that's some good input there. So Daniel, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay focused when things are tough, when the market's tough? What are you doing? What are you doing when results aren't just, as easy as they used to be?
Yeah, I think it's like, first, I loved Carolyn's answer, to be honest with you. I'm very similar to this, very self-motivated and driven. But I think that it's also just setting goals for yourself, making sure that you do have them, like what is going to make you get out of bed in the morning and move that needle. So I think a lot of what you said as well is surrounding yourself by people that are doing things that you want to be doing, so you can see how they work, what they're doing, how they're generating leads, how they operate, everything. And it's going to help you grow. So I think setting those goals, and also to what Shelley said, I'm very similar to that as well. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is read. I like to read a chapter every day. And a lot of it too for me is just, setting the goals, being self-motivated, and figuring out how I can have more energy for myself to accomplish those goals. So I found I stopped going to the gym previously because I was so focused on business all the time, and just everything was business, which my business was growing, but then I started noticing I was getting tired. So now I'm making sure that, I do things like go to the gym a couple times a week. I'm reading, I'm trying to get good sleep, and just everything that I can to have more energy to hit those goals. But when it comes to motivation, I find very self-motivated and just doing it for my family. So that's everything that I'm doing.
That's awesome. And that's so true. I've heard a lot of people say that when things get tough, you have to stay grounded, and you have to remember, what are you doing this for? what am I getting up for? What's my why? What's so important? And it sounds like, Dan, your why is sometimes your family, and that's so important.
Yeah,
so important.
For sure.
So okay, so all right, so we're moving along pretty good on time. So let me, I'm going to go to one of the additional questions I have, and we'll start off with Carolyn. Okay, and this question is going to be, if you had to start over today, day one in real estate, okay, and just close your eyes for a moment. Just picture this: you're starting over, brand new, day one. Because there might be some of these individuals in the audience today that could really benefit from this. If you're day one and you're brand new to real estate and you're brand new to the market, so you don't know where you're at, you don't know anything about real estate, you have no contacts. So first off, you're with EXP, so you're already in the right place, right? You're in the right seat. But what would your first 30 days look like?
So my first 30 days, and actually I can relate to this because it is exactly what we did when we hit the ground. That's how I know. I started August 1st. So when I was with Keller Williams, I did my onboarding, and then we had to do a month of training at Keller Williams. And then August 1st, we hit the ground running. So we came together, and even if it was just me, but for me, I think real estate is not necessarily easier, is probably not the right word I'm looking for, but if you have a partner. So anyways, and I would do, if I was starting brand new again today, I'd do the exact same thing I did 9 years ago, August 1st. I was in charge of FSBOs. I would, and especially now since FSBOs have no use of Zillow anymore, I did Marketplace. Marketplace was a big bet then. But I took all the FSBOs I could find online and I called them. I called every single one of them. And the funny thing with them is I didn't call them the first day. After they'd been sitting for a while, then I would call them, come from the attitude of giving. What can I help you? Where do you need help? And I got listings. That's the first year we capped immediately. We were crazy busy. And my business partner worked the expired. So she became the expert on, because you deal with them differently. The FSBOs ones, they have certain needs. The expireds have one, they have certain needs. So she became an expert dealing with the expireds. I became an expert dealing with the FSBOs. And I would do that exact same thing if I was starting all over again. That's where I would hit. The FSBOs got nothing. They got nothing out there, at least in Wisconsin, because they can't use Zillow. They can't use Trulia. They have no venue to try and market their home. So that's what I would do. And it worked out great for me. And we've never looked back, really. Well, am I still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Carolyn?
Yeah.
Was that? So thank you so much. That was really good. I love your answer, and I'm definitely I could talk a lot about this myself too, because you always want to wonder, if I had to start over, what would I do? And that goes back to one of the first questions is what's working now that maybe didn't work before, and sometimes you got to be resourceful. And what you mentioned was you would take things that maybe didn't have a lot of cost to it, but it would more be generated by effort. Does that sound about right?
Well, and you start to perfect your verbiage and coming to them and offering, have you had a lot of inquiries? Where are you at in the selling process? And come from an attitude of giving to them, how can I help you on this? Till they just get frustrated and say, hey, you know what? I need a professional on this. Help me. Take it over. And it's amazing. That's how we really started in getting the numbers that we got. And the funny thing is, when you come from knowing your job. And I mean, how much do, as realtors, I mean, really, you get your license in 6 weeks. How much do you really know? But you have to be, you have to study up on it. So when someone has a question, you can talk with authority, you can talk with knowledge, and you can, I mean, you're asking people to give you their biggest investment of their entire life. They don't want to give it to someone who's never sold a house before. So you can't act like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure, even though you may. And if you're with EXP, which of course everybody here is, you got the knowledge behind you, utilize it, and contact the FSBOs or the expires with knowledge, authority that, hey, I'm asking you to give me your prized possession, the biggest investment that you have. I want you to entrust it to me because I have your back. I can do this. This is what we do. And we were very, very successful doing that.
That's awesome. So Shelley, close your eyes, starting over, day one. What's first 30 days look like?
I would say don't be a secret agent. I would show up everywhere, community events, builder events, local coffee shops. I would just make sure I'm introducing myself to everyone. And I would probably document the journey along the way on social media. There's lots of things that you can do on social media, right? You can, well, here's something, bring value, right? So community groups, find a niche, right? Find something that maybe you could build from scratch with a Facebook community. I would also say, figure out who's your avatar. You know, what does your client, your perfect client look like? And start marketing to that particular client. Let's see, align with successful agents. So find other agents who are successful, who've already been there and done that. And you know, just be around them. Plug in. EXP offers all kinds of things. And, you know, the only agents I think that leave EXP are the agents that don't take advantage of what EXP offers. And there's so much. And it's almost like, you know, you've got to pick and choose because there's so much. But that's the number one thing. Plug in. There's so much. And be a part of a mastermind group. I think being in going to in-person events is super important because going back to that collaboration piece and becoming energized by others. I mean, that's super important. Let's see, if you're a younger person and you don't have a decent sphere, right? You're just getting started, join a team. I mean, even joining a team for an older person is a good thing. At least I always tell people, invest in yourself. I know a lot of times people think, oh, well, I don't want to give up all my money. Well, I don't look at it that way. Look at it as an investment in yourself as an agent. And, you don't have to put a time cap on it. I mean, I think most agents will stay on a team from 3 to 5 years. I personally stayed on a team as a licensed agent for 7 years. And I was doing 100 transactions a year on a team. My very first year, I did 72 transactions. So you can be super successful on a team and you can stay as long as you want, or just stay for the first year and really get a good, strong. And, like I said before, being around other successful agents is really key. So those are some of the things that I would really focus on the first 30 days. But just, I guess sharing with the world that you're an agent.
Well, you totally unloaded some gold nuggets there, my friend. That was amazing. No, I hope there were some note takers out there. That was awesome. That was great. So, no, that's powerful. So we want to get to Daniel on this question. So Daniel, day one, no experience, just starting out. I mean, no market experience, no real estate experience, and Carolyn just crushed it. So let's see. I'm sure you can agree with what she said too. But what would you do? What in addition to that?
I agree with what everyone just said. Those were definitely really those were some serious golden nuggets. I think if something for me to add that I would have done is built my online presence a lot quicker. I know I've mentioned YouTube multiple times, but it's not just that. I would have done my Facebook quicker, Instagram quicker, but most importantly, my Google My Business a lot quicker. So I think it was Carolyn that said it, but it's like someone's giving you your biggest asset, the biggest trust in what they're about to either buy or sell. And I think that setting up your online presence, especially your Google My Business, I think every agent should have one, because when I go and sit down and talk with my clients, it's like they've already read a lot about me. They've been on my social media. They know a lot about me already. And I think that that's a super important thing, because I even noticed, like, I'm sure some of you have kids. When you register your kid in something new, a lot of times you go online and you read all about it on the Google My Business. If there's reviews there, you want to know about them. So this helps so much. And I know when you're starting, you're not going to have a lot of reviews, or maybe you can get some lease reviews, whatever it is. But this helps big time, and I do think that it'll even increase your conversions the more people that start searching for you and looking at this stuff, because they see an online presence, it builds trust, and I think that that's a big piece, because you don't want people going online and Googling you and seeing nothing there. They're going to start asking questions before they meet you. So I think that's something I would have done a lot sooner. And even now, I'm constantly just looking to grow my reviews and growing my online presence. So I think that's what I would have done.
Can I add 2 cents here? I think Daniel is right on. We the last couple of years have stressed a lot in our Google reviews, and we got 2 listings, high-end listings, 600 plus 1,000 from people Googling realtor near me, and my name has come up, and then they go through my Google reviews and they called me. So, and the latest one, no, it was 700. It was 690 or something, and we ended up selling at 715. So Daniel's right on. Do your Google presence. Make it out there. And what we do is my admin, when we close a transaction, when we're sitting at the closing table, I tell my clients, whether it's my seller or my buyer or whatever, if we're pre-signing, I tell them, hey, Sarah's going to be sending you an email. It'll have all your documents in it. And it's going to have a Google review link. Could you please, do a 5-star review for me? Tell them, just give me a review. I said, it helps so much on the algorithms and getting us out there. And 90% of them do it. And it makes a huge difference. There was another something I was going to add, and I lost my train of thought on it. But I agree wholeheartedly with that, Danielle.
Yeah, I think we're tight on time, but I still want to just drop one more thing on the Google review side. People don't know this as well, but there's an SEO algorithm inside of Google that when people type in, so for example, I'm from Burlington, Ontario. If somebody had a Google review that said, if you're looking for a real estate agent in Burlington, Ontario, then Daniel is your guy, whatever that review is. If they go to Google and they type in real estate agent in Burlington, Ontario, there's a very strong chance that my Google My Business page will pop up, because they just typed in that short little phrase keyword. And that's probably why Carolyn got those leads as well off of hers, because somebody typed something in on those reviews that connected each other. So the algorithm of Google is a search engine. So you need to have your bio done on there. You need to have your reviews done on there, everything, and try to find keywords that people are typing in very frequently within your area. And you put those in, and I promise you'll get leads for free.
Yeah. And the big thing is, when you get the review, respond immediately. The faster you respond, the higher your algorithms go up. And you end up near the top when people are searching.
Wow. Just wow, everybody. This was huge. I think we're at the end of time here, Brian, but I think we had some pretty good nuggets today. And I think this was a very successful panel. But thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming to attending today. The panelists, I want to thank for your amazing answers, your sharing, your just unselfish sharing today was amazing. Thank you, everybody. And I'm just honored to be part of all this.